Good morning and welcome to the ELP Standards 1 Part 1. I am Michelle Furch and I'm a teacher with the Bristol, Farmington, and Cheshire Adult Education programs. I am here presenting with Nancy Tracy from EdAdvance, the ELP Standards Part 1.
Hi, thanks Michelle. That was a nice intro for us. I'm Nancy Tracy, the EL coordinator here at EdAdvance. I am so excited to present to you the ELP Standards for Adults. I hope you enjoy this great presentation.
Good morning, I am here with Nancy Tracy and today we're going to be discussing the ELP Standards. Understanding and using the English language proficiency standards in the classroom. Today's agenda will be what are the English language proficiency standards, their connection to the college and career readiness standards, the instructional shifts that occurred in adult education, using the English language proficiency standards in the classroom, and some classroom examples. How is the field of adult ESL instruction different now than it was 10 to 15 years ago? Then 5 years ago, what caused the change? There's integration of content areas, civics, workplace readiness, career training, academic subjects, integration of transitional skills, the soft skills at all levels of ESL, emphasis on academic language in our assignments, focus on textual evidence, require use of text to support claims, conclusions, etc. The use of technology, brand new to some of our students. And our students themselves, they are different than they were 10 to 15 years ago. The college and career readiness standards for adult education, where are they drawn from? They're drawn from the Common Core, written for all learners at all levels. Identifies specific language and analytical practices students need to perform in the classroom. Increases language demands across content areas. Signals an upward shift in knowledge, skills, and abilities the students must develop to be successful. What are they? The English language proficiency standards for adult education are intended to address urgent need for educational equity, access, and rigor for adult English language learners. The panel worked with OCTE, the Office of Career Technical and Adult Education, to tweak the ELPA 21 standards to fit the adult ESL context. ELP's goal is to support language learners in achieving the CCRS for adult education. Here's a link from the government that further explains the process that we came about instituting the English language proficiency standards. And if you would like to learn more about it, you may click on that link. Why use the ELPS in instruction? English language acquisition classes, especially those for beginning level students, often focus on life skills such as banking and shopping. The ELP standards for adult ed, however, emphasize the need for English language acquisition programs to move beyond teaching life skills. Programs must promote college and career readiness for adults and meet the high expectations set forth in WIOA. Rather than considering what language does a student have, the new standards force us to focus on what is a student able to do with the language within the content areas. The connection. ELPS don't replace the CCRS. They are a language lift to help students reach and engage successfully in the CCRS. ELPS provides help to differentiate and scaffold instruction for diverse learners. The ELPS goal is to support language learners in achieving the CCRS for adult education. Instructional shifts in adult education. Utilize close reading of complex text. Shift the relationship from acquiring language proficiency to acquiring content knowledge, while encouraging language production. Emphasize text with academic language. Focus on depth of knowledge. Less emphasis on rote memory and surface level understanding. Teach explicitly. Encourage production. Choose text with rich academic language. That's the vocabulary. Prioritize content-rich informational texts that focus on textual evidence to support claims, conclusions, etc. What do they look like? We have the 10 guiding principles, represent foundational understandings about adult ELLs and English language teaching that influence the panel selection of the ELPS for adult education. We have the 10 standards accompanied by the 5 proficiency levels, descriptors that support each standard and specify the more granular targets for ELL performance that should be achieved by the end of each ELP standard level. 2 views of the standards assist both English language acquisition instructors and ABE instructors who may have ELLs in their classroom. The classroom scenarios, what it looks like in practice. What are the guiding principles? Number 1, adult ELLs have the potential to meet state-adopted, challenging academic standards. Number 2, adult ELLs represent a diverse population of learners. Number 3, adult ELLs' funds of knowledge are a resource for their learning. Number 4, social language has an important role in ELL's English language acquisition process. 3, key instructional advances form the basis of state-adopted content standards for English language arts in adult education that ELLs must access. Number 6, adult ELLs must be able to engage successfully with a wide variety of informational texts. Number 7, scaffolding is an essential tool to facilitate ELL's acquisition of language and content. ELLs with disabilities have specific instructional needs. Multimedia technology, aligned with the ELP standards for adult education, should be integrated into instruction. Academic language instruction should be incorporated into all content lessons, including mathematics and science, and not just English. And here are the ELP standards, and there are only 10 standards. Number 1, construct meaning from oral presentations, literary and informational text through level-appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. Number 2, participate in level-appropriate oral and written exchanges of information, ideas, and analysis in various social and academic contests, responding to peer, audience, or reader comments and questions. Number 3, speak and write about level-appropriate complex literary and informational texts and topics. Number 4, construct level-appropriate oral and written claims and support them with reasoning and evidence. Number 5, conduct research and evaluate and communicate findings to answer questions to solve problems. Number 6, analyze and critique the arguments of others orally and in writing. Number 7, adopt language choices to purpose, task, and audience when speaking and writing. Number 8, determine the meaning of words and phrases in oral presentations and literary and informational texts. Number 9, create clear and coherent level-appropriate speech and text. Number 10, demonstrate command of the conventions of standard English to communicate in level-appropriate speech and writing. What do they look like? The 5 levels are included with each of the 10 standards. They describe a range of student proficiency in English for each standard. They inform instruction by providing a granular description of learner knowledge and skills at each level. They direct teachers to differentiate and scaffold instruction. And if you look to your right, You can see the standard and the levels side by side. And if you would take a look at your blue booklet on the College and Career Readiness Standards, and you could see the difference in the ELP standards and the CCRS. This is the first anchor of the College and Career Readiness Standards. Read closely to determine what the test says explicitly and make logical inferences from it. And you see the different levels, levels A, B, C, D, and E, and how it corresponds with the ELP Standard 1, levels 1 through 5. And Nancy Tracy will take the next few slides. Thank you.
Continuing right along from what Michelle has told us and read in detail, I'm going to talk about close reading. We hear close reading a lot in both the CCRS and in the new ELP standards. That's part of the shift, okay? Close reading. What is it? What is close reading? It's thoughtful, critical analysis of a text that focuses on the significant details and the patterns in order to develop a deep, precise understanding of the text form, craft, meanings, etc. As I may have mentioned, close reading is a key requirement of the CCRS for adult education and directs the reader's attention to text itself. Okay, text can be either oral, print, or visual. And in the ELP Standard 1, we are constructing meaning from oral presentations and literary and informational text through level appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. And in level 1, it's a very limited set of strategies to identify those key words and phrases in oral communications and simple spoken and written text, the key being very limited on level 1. And that's appropriate for level 1. On level 2, the key word here is emerging, okay? The students are emerging with a set of strategies, and they have describing achievable language tasks for even the very low level learners. And there are variations in the language development process, and they're recognized as a repertoire of strategies expand as the proficiency level increases. And at level 3, there's a developing set of strategies, keyword being developing. They're no longer just limited or emerging, they're developing a good set of strategies. And their specific language functions are named. Okay, they can determine that central idea and retell and answer questions about key details and explain how the themes developed and do a summary. In the close reading slide, we see on the left side of the slide that CCRS Anchor 1, which talks about close reading to determine what the text says explicitly. Okay, and there are level A and B, as an example, ask and answer questions about the key details for level A, grades K through 1, and level B, grades 2 to 3, ask and answer such questions as who, what, where, when, why, and how to demonstrate understanding of the key details. And on the right-hand side of the slide, the ELP Standard 1 construct meaning from oral presentations and literary and informational text through level appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. Again, it's pointing out the very limited set of strategies for ELP level 1, the emerging set of strategies for ELP level 2, and the developing set of strategies for ELP level 3. View 1 is helpful for planning language lessons that foster adult EL's acquisition of discipline-specific language and skills needed to access the CCRS. The language demands are identified associated with math, science, and English language arts and literacy practices. highlighting the relationship between ELP standards and the language demands found in the CCRS. View 1 may be most useful, and the main focus of instruction is language for English learners, okay? The teachers of English language learners. And all of those English language acquisition facets connected to academic subject matter or the workplace content. View 1 as opposed to view 2. Looking at text with an EL lens, we go through the descriptors, very important fine detail for you in planning for your students' learning, okay? Basically, the levels have different descriptors, and it's so helpful because sometimes you struggle to think, am I teaching them enough? But these descriptors are so specifically aligned to what they're capable of, their ELP, their English language proficiencies, that you are giving a pat on the back as a teacher when you see, as in level 1, a student who's level 1 uses a very limited set of strategies. And that's exactly what your student is doing, and that's exactly where they should be. Don't feel you're not doing a good job as a teacher. Check this out. It gives you proof that your student is at the appropriate level of learning for their level of English language proficiency. So if you go across the line and read each level, key it in with your student, this is the best tool. And it's also proof that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, the beauty of this is also that there are correspondences to mathematical practices and engineering practices. So they answer the questions such as making sense of problems with math and asking questions and defining problems with engineering. Okay, these are invaluable. The correspondences to the CCR English Language Arts and Literacy Standards for adult education are listed in reading, speaking, and listening. View 2 is useful when instruction is framed around the CCR standards for adult education in a class with adult ELs who are in need of language skills development. A little different than View 1. Okay. I hope you understand that if you have a class and you're an ESL teacher and you're not teaching at a higher level, View 2 is really reserved for a higher level student who may be getting their GED or something as a goal in their workplace. Okay, so the CCR English Language Arts and Literacy Anchor Standard for adult education that's presented here is Anchor 1, read closely again, to determine what the text says explicitly and make logical inferences from it, and cite specific textual evidence when writing or speaking to support conclusions drawn from the text. The CCR English Language Arts and Literacy Standards for Adult Education Level E are again citing strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of the text and what it says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. The application to cite specific textual evidence to support analysis again, and the citing specific textual evidence in technical texts and in attending to the precise details or explanations of text and their descriptions. You can see where in the workplace or in a complicated assignment for getting your GED, this would be critical to be able to look at View 2 and see if your student is meeting this criteria. Language that students are required to understand and use during a task or activity, okay? A couple different kinds of language. Productive modality. What's productive modality? It's the ability to produce level-appropriate written and spoken text that meaningfully transmits meaning. What's interpretive modality? The ability to process, understand, interpret, or engage with level-appropriate literary and informational written and spoken text to construct meaning. An interactive language ability is to process and produce level-appropriate written and spoken text interactively with the purpose of understanding, interpreting, engaging in, and transmitting meaning, and the collaborative use of both receptive and productive skills. Language has form and function. So form versus function. What is form and what is function? Language functions describe what students do with the language to accomplish academic tasks across varying content areas. I was confused by this myself. Function is what you do. And what is language form? Something we emphasize less with English learners these days because the form is something like grammar. And when a student is learning a language, they are not always grammatically correct. It is probably more important that they know the function of a word than the form, in my opinion. So if you look at function and form, you think about what's happening with your student. Maybe they do need to have the form for a workplace purpose. So then you would probably concentrate on getting every single detail right. But if you're asking where is the bathroom, maybe you can just think about whether your function of that sentence is correct. So I'll read here a little bit more about the language functions in linguistic actions that students accomplish while completing academic tasks, such as classifying information or defending a position during a debate, giving instructions, introducing ourselves, and making requests. Also, these are purposes for which language is used in and out of the classroom, such as, do I know where the bathroom is? And the language forms could include anything that is considered a language structure and cross-curricular academic vocabulary. Language structures include words, segments of words, punctuation that holds the English language together at the word phrase, sentence level. Anything we consider part of grammar, syntax, or morphology is a language structure. Academic vocabulary used across different academic content areas often describe or are related to academic processes or Tier 2. Form versus function is embedded in the ELP standards. So standards 1 through 7 focus on language functions. And then we have 3 more because there are only 10. The other 3 focus on the form. Okay, so they describe the language necessary for ELs to engage in critical, content-specific practices. They highlight necessary linguistic and analytical functions and types of language and reasoning skills that students use when engaging with academic content. Standards 1 through 7 begin with a focus on extracting meaning and progress to engaging in these practices. Okay, and then 8 through 10 focus on language forms and support ELP standards 1 through 7. So they help each other. 1 through 7 are not really separate, but there's some form facets in 8, 9, and 10 that are not present in 1 through 7, but they support and help each other as a whole, the 1 through 10. So the 3 that are left at the end, 8, 9, and 10, focus on micro-level linguistic features or language forms, such as determining the meaning of words and using appropriate speech and conventions of language. For example, Standard 8, an EL can determine the meaning of words and phrases in oral presentations and literary and informational text is necessary for ELs to engage with Standard 1, which is an EL can construct meaning from oral presentations and literary and informational text through level-appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. Now we are going to watch Andrea in action.
Andrea Eckelberger demonstrates how she helps learners develop beginning literacy skills.
Yesterday, we wrote a story. What happened in the story? Yeah. What did we do in the story? Where did we go? Hardware store. The hardware store. Where is the hardware store?
Pain
Kane.
Avenue.
This is a class for emergent readers who haven't been in the United States very long, and we're working on developing literacy skills alongside of life skills to help them to be successful while living in the United States. We have classes for 20 hours a week, 2 hours in the morning, a short break, and then another 2 hours after lunch.
Questions? Yeah.
Well, we used the language experience approach where we all had a common experience that we did together, and while it was happening, I took pictures and printed them out so that I could show the students, and we went through the pictures, and in each picture talked about, as a whole class, what do you see in the picture, what did we do, what is this person doing, and then as we were talking out and as the students were giving me the language that they remembered and that they already knew from the previous units that we've been doing, I would write the story down on the board. So when we finished, we had a story where a lot of language that the learners were already familiar with, that they'd already talked about and thought about, with a few additional words that I helped them put in there with vocabulary that I wanted to make sure that they knew.
Nice, nice. Do you use the mouse trap? Yeah, some people bought mouse traps. The mouse traps, and we found the cockroach powder and the bed bug spray. Okay. And Ning found some other things. What else does Ning have? What else did people buy? Stove cleaner. Yeah, stove cleaner. And what is this?
I feel like there's no sense in teaching someone how to write something if they don't know how to say it first, because you have to know what a word means for it to have any meaning when you're writing it. So we do a lot of work with vocabulary development, getting people to feel comfortable talking about themselves, sharing information, but we're always trying to bring that back and connect it to print to give what they're writing meaning.
In the bag, and change gives you change. Good. And then what do we say? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And how did we feel? Happy? Happy? Maybe a little bit cold because it was snowing a lot. We had to go back to school. Okay. Can everybody take out your story? And I want you to look at the story, read it in your head. Okay, so read the story quietly. Read it in your head.
The day before, the learners copied the class-generated story into their notebooks.
Okay. Does everybody want to put your finger on your paper? I will read the story. You read your paper and follow along. So right now, just listening. On Friday, we go to the hardware store. The hardware store is on the corner of Payne Avenue and Maryland Avenue. We ask questions.
Following along with the text, while Andrea reads aloud, helps students connect oral language to print, an early step in literacy development.
We find the bed bug spray. We find the stove cleaner, wall cleaner, dish soap, and washing machine soap. We pay money to the cashier. Good. Okay? This time, I will read one sentence. Everybody listen, then repeat. Okay? On Friday, we go to the hardware store. On Friday, we go to the hardware store.
Repeating the sentences reinforces the connection between spoken language and the written word.
Good. We say thank you.
We say thank you.
We are happy.
We are happy.
Good. Are you ready to read it all together? Yeah. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. On Friday, we go to the hardware store.
Well, I think the most important thing for emergent readers is repetition, that they're seeing the same words over and over and over until they're familiar and comfortable with them and can use them in a lot of different contexts. So we do a lot of repetition, we do a lot of scaffolding, where each lesson in a unit builds on the one before and goes back and uses words that they've learned previously. And we do a lot of work with pictures. I use a lot of visuals to support what we're talking about. I act things out a lot. I encourage learners to act things out a lot when they're telling their stories. We draw pictures, sort of anything that we can use to get the language across and negotiate the language together.
That we wrote yesterday. You guys do really, really well. So let's practice reading some of the words from the story. What is this word?
Friday.
Friday. Good.
Go. Cleaner.
Yeah. Stove. Cleaner. Yeah.
While working on individual words in the story, Andrea also has learners work on pronunciation of more difficult sounds.
Hardware store. So store. Stove. Yeah. Yeah. Stove. Store. Good. Will. Bed bug spray. Bed bug spray. Yeah. Dish soap. Good. So out of these words, what words have the same sound? What words have the same sound? Okay, how about for, like this word? Will. Will. What other word sounds like will? Kill. Kill. Yeah, you're right. Will, and washing machine. Yeah. But when we say the words rhyme, the same sound. Will, kill. Will, kill.
People's vocabularies always seem like they grow bigger than their reading and writing skills, faster than their reading and writing skills. So when they're learning how to write, knowing that this word sounds like another word that I know how to write So maybe if I just change the first letter, now I know how to spell it, and they don't have to go through sounding out each tiny little sound to do the spelling, and it makes their spelling faster and a lot more natural.
How about Bill? B-I-L-L. Bill. Bill. Kill. Will.
Andrea Eckelberger begins her low emerging skills ESL class by teaching them literacy skills along with life skills. This month, she is focusing on the local community and basic vocabulary. Her students are learning speaking, writing, reading, and listening skills in English. For example, they have taken a field trip to a local hardware store. The lesson objective is to write a class-generated story using the language experience approach. The students read the whole story that they copied from the board. Following along with the text helps students make connections between reading and speaking through lots of repetition, which helps students learn. Andrea uses authentic visuals, photos she takes of students and objects, and scaffolds through these pictures to increase students' familiarity with pronunciation. She uses word families and rhyming to build up the ability to spell similar sounding words. Students rewrite sentences from individual words in word order with correct pronunciation, capital and lowercase letters, and read aloud with movement helps students practice fluency and natural sentence stress. Andrea knows that she wants her students to be able to read important signs and labels to be able to follow basic directions. However, she also realizes that students might find these tasks challenging to understand. To shape her upcoming lessons and assist her students in gathering useful information from difficult readings, she looks at View 1 of the ELP Standards. In particular, she focuses on ELP Standard 1. ELP Standard 1 says, an EL can construct meaning from informational texts through level-appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. Andrea first looks at ELP Standard 1, Levels 1 and 2, where her students generally fit. She realizes that the objectives of her literacy-focused lessons can center on reading and writing a whole story. She also sees that her more proficient Level 3 students can be expected to answer questions about key details and summarize part of the text. Andrea also notes that the lessons she is planning to help her students access text and language correspond to the CCR Reading Anchor 1. Now, Table 3 shows the correspondence of the English Language Proficiency Standards 1 through 10 on the left, and the Adult Education College and Career Readiness English Language Arts and Literacy Standards for Adult Education. I know you're familiar with the format of how this is laid out, and so you would key in your student's level and decide, okay, one, Standard 1 for the ELP Standards, construct meaning from oral presentations and literary and informational text through level-appropriate listening, reading, and viewing. So how does that correspond specifically in a granular layout here to the CCRS standards? Okay, we see it corresponds to a couple things. It corresponds to the CCR English Language Arts and Literacy Standards in reading 1, 2, 3, and 7, and also to the CCR Language Arts and Literacy Standards in speaking and listening, Standard 2. Okay, so there's a quick way of laying it out and showing how they correspond. They don't correspond in every way, but they definitely correspond in a good way into many facets of both sets of standards. And in Standard 2 of the ELP standards, to participate in level-appropriate oral and written exchanges of information, ideas and analyses in various social and academic contexts, responding to their peers, audience, or reader comments and gestures, corresponds to the CCR English Language Arts Standard 6, and also to speak in writing, and also in Standard 1 for speaking and listening. They're getting a little of each modality. In Standard 3 of the ELP, speak and write about level appropriate complex literary and informational texts and topics. The CCR standards that it corresponds to are writing 2 and 3, speaking and listening 4 and 5. Standard 4 in the ELP standards construct level appropriate oral and written claims and support them with reasoning and evidence. Again, with the CCRS writing 1 and speaking and listening 4. ELP Standard 5, conduct research and evaluate and communicate findings to answer questions or solve problems. Correspond again to writing 7, 8, 9, and listening and speaking 4, 5. ELP Standard 6, analyze and critique the arguments of others orally and in writing, corresponds to the CCRS Reading Standard 8, Writing Standard 1, and Speaking and Listening Standard 3. ELP Standard 7, adapt language choices to purpose, task, and audience when speaking and writing, correspond to the Writing CCRS Standard 5, the Listening and Speaking Standard 6, and the Standard for AE Language 6. Okay, CALP Standard 8, determining the meaning of words and phrases in oral presentations and literary and informational text. Standard 4, and in reading, and Standard 4 and 5 in language. And Standard 9 in the ELP standards, create clear and coherent level appropriate speech and text corresponding to CCRS Standards 1E in reading, 2, 3, and 4, and in speaking and listening, 4 and 6. Last but not least, demonstrating command of the conventions of standard English to communicate level appropriate speech and writing corresponding to the language of the CCRS standards 1 and 3. So, are you familiar with the ELP standards? Are you comfortable with them? Do you appreciate that connection between the ELP standards and the CCRS? Do you see any ways that the ELP standards may enhance your English language instruction, and how to include those ELP standards in your lesson planning? I hope so. And below here are some links to help you, and you can refer to them at your leisure, at your discretion, and we hope that you will use them because they're very, very helpful. Here are a few samples of the ELP standards in action. we've designed a practice for you so that you can put into practice the things that you've learned today. On your page in front of you, you see the practice that you can complete as an assignment for your development, your professional development. We've asked you to assign 2 ELP standards that we've gone over today for each task and label those tasks as either productive, interpretive, or interactive. This will help you in your reflective process after hearing everything we've presented to you today. Okay, the tasks are, number 1, write a letter to a legislator or a newspaper editor. Research trends in local employment and create a poster to share. 3, write an email to a coworker asking her to trade shifts. 4, using context clues to understand a new word in a text. 5, write a cover letter to apply for a job that you found online. 6, state your opinion on a topic after reading a story in the newspaper. 7, listen to a news story online and determine the main idea. 8, respond to a question using correct grammar. 9, participate in a debate about a candidate for a local election. 10, give a presentation to the class explaining a skill you have. 11, with a partner, research some careers that interest you and then write a job description for the perfect job. We look forward to seeing you at the ELP Standards Part 2, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation of the ELP Standards Part 1. Thank you.